Mad Sports Radio, The Gang Green Report, with Mike Damergis, Martino Puccio, and Rob Carpenter.
Mike Damergis along with Rob Carpenter and Martino Puccio for the Gang Green Report. And week 3, as expected, the Jets dropped to 0-3 after a debacle in Indianapolis, 36-7. The ironic thing, Rob, the game was tied at 7 and the wheels just fell off for Sam Darnold. And again, before you even get the ice in your Coca-Cola and sit down to watch the game, it's 7-0 Colts again.
It's weird. Those first 2 drives were kind of ironic. They have something going on, they have something moving, and then pick 6. Then they come right back and they have a nice drive. Sam gets out of trouble and hits Berrios with the touchdown. It's like, okay, it seems like the game that they might have, put everything together. Just keep Sam from the mistakes like that first one, and then you might have something going on. And it just seems like nothing went right after that.
Yeah, Martino.
I think when Becton went down, it was big for them.
Absolutely, the one bright spot in the Jets roster so far. It looked that the Jets were looking good early on. They tied the game at 7. Martino. Sam Darnold was moving around the pocket, finding receivers on really a makeshift bunch of wide receivers. Not much depth there, but he was making things happen, and things looked promising in the first quarter.
Yeah, the same throw that he had that Herndon should have caught last week was pretty much what just happened on that scramble for the touchdown. And you're like, okay, why can't we get more of that? Why isn't he in more situations like that? Because we'll be honest here, right? He does a lot of things that a lot of bad quarterbacks do, but not many quarterbacks can pull off something like that. So that's what gets you excited half the time. But then he gets in the red zone, and then the interception there is just inexcusable. Taking sacks when he should be throwing the ball away. And at that point, again, that's not even Gase's fault. That's just something that he should know at this point in year 3. And honestly, it's not his fault. He loses both of his tackles, right? Because his right tackle didn't even start coming into this game. Becton's gone. You don't have anybody of note for the receivers. Even then, you just, like, what can you truly go off of at that point besides – a few plays that he shouldn't have made, and it gets negated by a great touchdown. So again, you come away inconclusive, and to the point where it's like they better fire Gase as soon as this week, otherwise, because you got to find out and make a decision, because you need someone else to come in here to see if he's the future, because Joe still needs to figure that out. And the worst part is you can't even celebrate being the worst team in the NFL because there's 5 other teams that are 0-3. So they're getting competition for the number 1 overall pick now. So there's not much, and the Bengals don't even have a win technically because they tied against the Eagles.
They have a quarterback. We could see him making plays. The things are so bad, and 2 of the worst teams play in New York. I actually turned on Laverne and Shirley watching the Jets game. Things are so bad. So back in 1992. You were playing for a young coach at Bruce Coslett. They had a young quarterback in Browning Nagel. At what point did you realize Browning wasn't going to be the guy that everybody thought he was going to be? And let's not forget, 1992, the preseason, the Jets were 5-0.
I think, we really didn't find that out until that offseason, going into 93. We were basically letting Browning make his rookie mistakes. Because basically that was his rookie year, it was his second year. They just gave him the reins right from the start, and you were expecting him to make mistakes. If you were a real player on that team, you basically knew we weren't going to win a whole lot of games. You basically have a rookie quarterback playing in a tough division already. Buffalo was the cream of the crop at that time. Miami was still good. Even though the team was basically coming off a playoff appearance, it still was, okay, we have a young team, got to see what these guys are going to do. Give Browning the reins and, just let him make his mistakes and grow on the job. And basically that's what he was doing. But after that, the whole front office decided to go in another direction, and Browning basically was pulled back and give it to whom he decided to. So I really never got to see what his full potential could have been in the Jets uniform. It's just that he basically had 1 year, which is, again, in essence, his rookie year. You had to let him make his mistakes. We knew we weren't going too far with that team.
In 1993, so the Jets wound up switching to Boomer Esiason, and you guys made the playoffs, and but that ended badly too as well because you guys were 8-5, and then just tanked down the stretch there, losing to the Oilers the last game of the season. So Martino, for Sam Darnold here in his third season, do we look at him as this is his last chance, as it will be with Adam Gase, or are we looking that the Gase is the problem here? Because let's face it, 18 offensive linemen through the 3 years under Sam Darnold, not much consistency, not many players, playmakers on the outside as well.
There's nothing that you could say that other teams would want out of weapons of the Jets, and that only person would be Le'Veon Bell, right? Because that guy was averaging, he had the highest yards from scrimmage per game in NFL history prior to arriving to the Jets, and he gets to the Jets, and honestly, in terms of hype and guys that the Jets would have signed in free agency in their history, he probably their biggest bust, right? Because this is a Hall of Fame talent at the time, and now he's worse than Bilal Powell ever was for the Jets. And it's not a shot at Bilal Powell. He's not even producing at that level, and he's hurt again. And I do think it's mostly on Gase, right? Because Jeremy Bates was backpacking through America in the mountains, came to go coach Sam Darnold, and did a hell of a better job than Adam Gase ever did. And this is a guy who's proclaimed to be an offensive genius by Peyton Manning, was under Nick Saban, Michigan State, went over at LSU with him. I mean, this guy, everything that everyone hypes up Adam Gase to be is just the complete opposite. And at the end of the day, I don't know if you guys saw Sam Darnold's presser. He just looks like the most defeated player. And it honestly feels like what Mark Sanchez was like after that Sunday night football game against the Baltimore Ravens, where they lost every single offensive lineman. And I think that was the first game Nick Mangold might have missed in his career. And after that game, Sanchez was never the same. And it's not to say Sanchez was supposed to be an all-pro MVP Super Bowl winning quarterback, but just even to what he could have been as a serviceable guy, it just went down the tube. And he just has this look of a defeated Jets player that we've gotten so used to over our whole lives.
Richard Todd came out for comment, Rob. Well, you talk about that now on SNY last night. Bart Scott was referred to Mark Sanchez as well, that how he regressed really in that third year. And are we going to see that here with Sam Darnold? 2 pick sixes and throws a pick in the end zone here. That's 21 points he left on the board. How do you mentally rebound from something like that as an athlete, whether like you as a receiver, if you have a certain number of drops, if you're a running back, you have fumbles? The worst thing for a quarterback these days is an interception.
And especially when you're taking points off the board. Red zone interceptions are the worst. You have points and they come off the board immediately right there. And they could be game killers. The one thing in playing quarterback, you have to be like a baseball player. You strike out 3 times in a row and then you can hit a home run. You have to be mentally tough to get back in there. So for him, I hope what he does is just takes every game, looks at the film, and marks down his mistakes and goes back out on the practice field to correct. You should know, when you have Cage running a corner route, you can't throw it too far in front of him when you have a corner that's falling off, or the potential of a corner that's falling off. You have a guy that's 6'5", throw it up to him, let him give him a shot. You see it around the league all the time. You see these quarterbacks just with these 50-50 balls. You have to give receivers a chance. But Sam right now has to be mentally tough, even though I know it's probably the worst situation he ever imagined himself being at the moment. There's no one there to actually give him pointers. You don't have a vet around to keep his head straight. That's basically what he had in his first year here, and you saw the progression going up where we thought the ceiling was going to be very high. Now he doesn't have that. His coach is on the hot seat. There has to be turmoil in the locker room. I just know it. You have veteran guys on that defense that are just not looking up to the offense, saying, "Look, you guys keep putting us in these bad situations." And I've been on a team like that before. And I will mention this again. The defense will be the first to say the offense got to pick it up. And there will be guys actually start to talk if it just continues to go down the road, which we know it will. But it looks like the team might be making this change this week, and hopefully for the better.
And after the game in the post-game press conference, Adam Gase addressed those issues.
Adam, a byproduct of start like this and even last season to some degree is, there's been a lot of people calling for your job. Today there was a pre-game report from ESPN from Mort about the fact that, management and ownership is kind of looking at these next couple of games at you. How do you react to that, and how do you handle that?
I mean, I'm going to do what I always do, come back to work tomorrow and try to get things fixed. I mean, that's something I can't worry about. I gotta focus on getting our guys right.
All right, so the coach there, Adam Gase, basically giving a generic answer as he always does as far as the future of him with the team. Martino, we're 3 games in. They play Denver Thursday night. Denver just seems to be just as bad as the Jets. They're coming across country to play on a short week. If the Jets don't win this game, I think Friday morning Gase has got to be gone.
Yeah, and honestly, I think it's probably the worst possible thing if they do win this game for them, because then you're just extending what we already know what his fate is. And I think the important thing is that finally management is realizing something, because a bunch of former Jets players, if you saw on ESPN, Damian Woody being one of them, they're just eviscerating the guy. I mean, you have to have accountability for this, and it needs to be brought to Christopher Johnson's attention that, it can't just be you at this point thinking that the guy's an offensive genius, because then you have to have the foresight to kind of see, okay, maybe I am wrong. And that's something we talked about last week. Like, when is he going to finally figure it out that he knows something that everyone else already does? Like, everyone knows this already, and it's just delaying the inevitable. And they need to get blown out Thursday if they want to get in the right direction fast, because if this lasts any longer, hell, even if they only win by like 3 points or something, he should still be fired. And I think he got lucky this week that it's the Thursday game, because I think if it was a normal week and they don't play till Sunday or Monday night, he's gone. But I think he gets lucky because you don't really turn it around in 3 days like that.
Well, Rob, we went through the schedule for the Jets, and it looked like they're going to be 2-14. I think we gave this one a win last week. They were going to win the Broncos game. You talked to a lot of former players. Some played on some good teams. Some played on some bad teams. What's their take? Martino quoted Damian Woody and everything. What are you hearing through the grapevine, casual conversation with former Jet players regarding Adam Gase?
Same exact thing. It's basically been, from last year. We all knew, the guys that I speak to, this wasn't the correct choice of a coach. There were a lot better choices out there to make a team a better team going forward. But we all actually all said the same thing as well. It comes from the top. What would make Chris Johnson actually want to hire Adam Gase in the first place? So it's not just Damian being on ESPN speaking about it, and Damian is pretty upfront about what he says about the team. He says it every week because it's gotten worse every week. So, between myself and the rest of the guys that have played with this organization, it comes from the top. And like Martino just said, once Christopher Johnson realizes, look, I made a mistake, and I need to let the football guys take care of the football operations, then this team might be able to move forward. But until then, like we all say, nothing is going to change if Chris or Woody is still making the decisions on what coach and what GM should be in the building when they actually have, the hands-on approach that hasn't been working since they basically taken off the team.
It just seems like even if they go outside like they did with John Idzik, probably the worst hire this franchise might have ever made, next to Rich Kotite, they put together a panel and they wound up with John Idzik. So sometimes even when they reach out to the organization, this team always gets it wrong. And right now, if they fire him mid-season here, not even mid-season, a quarter of the way, do you give it to Greg Williams? Or does Rex Ryan get out of his ESPN contract and come back and coach the Jets and maybe learn from his mistakes previously? What do you say, Martino?
No, I don't think he's his. I mean, if you watch him on ESPN, his personality hasn't even changed. He still goes after players all the time. I'm pretty sure he went after Baker Mayfield last year, and Baker has no correlation to Rex whatsoever. So, and that was the main issue with Gase too, right? The guy, a lot of the head coaches that figure themselves out eventually down the road, like a Pete Carroll, even Belichick, because of that stint with the Browns. It was a couple years off. You return as a coordinator, and then you figure things out your second stint as a head coach. Gase had about a couple months after the Miami job, and they toss him right back in there. So if you're Adam Gase, in his mind, that guy is so full of himself, he's probably thinking, oh, it was Miami that was the issue. I'm going to be heading over to New York, and things are going to be fine. And look what happened again. And I think it's also, you saw his face there. That's dead man walking face. Like you could just see it. He knows his time is short, and there isn't much else to say, because usually he comes back with snarky attitude to the reporters all the time. And there he just looks so defeated. He just couldn't wait to get out of that.
One name I'll throw at you, Rob, for the final word here. Eric Mangini. Any possibility that the Jets reach back to him? Maybe he's learned his lesson after being in the NFL for, it seems like, close to a decade now.
I doubt they reach back to him, but it always baffled me about how he never really got another job. But it would have been nice to see him back around the facility a few years ago. At this point, I doubt it. I do think what you said was that if Gase is gone Friday morning, they probably just turn it over to Greg Williams, let him coach out the rest of the season, basically like he did when he was in Cleveland, and see how we can get the morale turned around on the team and see if anything can change. And as far as offense goes, it's probably just going to be left up to if the rest of the staff is there. Jim Bob Cooter will probably be the one to actually start calling the plays. So we'll just have to take a wait and see approach till Thursday night or Friday morning. If Thursday night things don't go well, I could probably see Gase. They take his keys away from Thursday night after the game and say, "All right, man, you on your way." We got to get things changed around Friday morning. So. It's going to be interesting to see, but I think if the changes made, Greg Williams takes over and he runs the team.
Well, we might be in the final 4 days of the Adam Gase show. Thank God. As a Jet fan, it's been really rough. I mean, at least a guy like Rex Ryan seemed to communicate to the fans. You didn't get that with Todd Bowles. You certainly are not getting that with Adam Gase. There's no human connection. Long-time suffering fans. And you look at the Giants and you look at Joe Judge, at least you think and you see him, the way he speaks to the fans and the way he is with the players, you think, okay, the Giants are so devoid of talent. They seem to have the right coach. And you don't see that with the Jets. They're devoid of talent and they don't have the right coach. So we'll talk next week, and we'll see where we are with Adam Gase. Thanks, guys.